Looking rich and being wealthy are not the same thing. Today, you see influencers, celebrities, coworkers, and even friends who all appear to be living their best life. And if you're not careful, you'll start to measure your life against theirs. But looks can be deceiving. The rich life you see may not reflect true wealth, and even when it does, you may be comparing the early stages of your financial journey to someone else's highlight reel. But I want to suggest a different approach, one that focuses on building real wealth instead of chasing the appearance of being rich. So let's talk about it. I am so happy to have you here with me today. Let's get started. When people describe someone as rich, they are usually reacting to visible lifestyle indicators. And that reaction is based on what can be observed. For example, a large home or an expensive car. And those signals are easy to see, but they do not tell you how that lifestyle is funded or whether it's sustainable. When you see an influencer living a certain lifestyle, it may be supported by brand partnerships rather than personal wealth. And when you see a celebrity, their income may be substantial, but that does not tell you how much they retain versus how much they consume. At the same time, it's also possible that any one of these individuals is operating from a position of strong financial discipline and a strategy that supports these purchases. Now, from the outside, you cannot distinguish between these scenarios. But wealth, on the other hand, is not determined by what is visible, it's determined by what is owned. Wealth is measured by net worth, what you own after subtracting what you owe. It reflects accumulated assets rather than merely outward consumption. Two individuals can earn similar incomes and have very different outcomes depending on how much they consume and how much they retain. One may expand their lifestyle with every increase in income, and another may increase investments and ownership. Now, over time, this will impact the amount of wealth accumulated for each individual. Now, I'll contend that wealth creation should be your primary financial focus. The outward manifestation of that will naturally come from a realignment of your priorities to this. And I want you to start with fixed expenses. Create a list of all of your fixed, non-negotiable expenses and total the cost of all of these. This is going to include things like your rent, mortgage, utilities, loans, etc. I want you to subtract this total from your monthly take-home income. And whatever you have left over is what we can look at for savings and investments. For savings and investments, I want you to consider both your short-term and your long-term needs. For short-term needs, consider how much you need to set aside to have 3 months' worth of expenses in an emergency fund. And I want you to plan to allocate a portion of your income to build this up. Let's say starting with 5%. But if that's not possible, even start with 1%. For your long-term considerations, think about employer-sponsored accounts like a 401k, especially if an employer matches this. Plan to contribute up to the company match for your organization or as close to that amount as you possibly can. Take advantage of that free money. Now, if you're self-employed or don't otherwise have access to an employer-sponsored account, look into funding a Roth IRA and contribute a portion of your income to that, perhaps another 5 to 10%. Again, if that's not possible, start with 1%. The important thing here is to get in the habit of saving and investing to build that strong financial foundation. Now, after you've accumulated your fixed expenses and you've set aside an appropriate amount for savings and investments, then we get to the fun stuff, the worry-free spending. And whatever you have left over can confidently be spent on the things that matter most to you. So why don't you treat yourself to a dinner at that nice restaurant you've been wanting to go to with your significant other? Take that trip that's been on your bucket list, or buy that designer bag that you thought was out of reach, because you've done the hard work, and now you can reward yourself. My only additional advice would be to periodically review your financial allocation. Can you increase your savings and investment rate? Can you reduce your fixed expenses? Do you want to more aggressively tackle any debt that you may have? And is there a specific goal that you want to save for? Consider these things and then adjust your plan accordingly. But assuming that you remain consistent to your plan and aligned with your own personal financial priorities and not those of others, you'll be well on your way to not just looking rich, but being wealthy. And that's going to do it for today's video. Now, looking rich is easy to display. But being wealthy requires structure and consistency. Build first, spend second. Stay aligned with your priorities and not someone else's. Now, if you found this video helpful, please do give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on the next one. And why don't you please share this video with someone who might benefit from it? And let me know in the comments what your personal version of rich looks like. I want to thank you so much for watching, and as always, I encourage you to dream big, to live well, and to do great things. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.